Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to be building a simple chat application using Django. So this is going to be built with Django and a little bit of AJAX, so a little bit of JavaScript in it. So we're not going to be doing anything so complex. We're not going to be using the WebSockets, the channels or anything like that. Just Django and AJAX. And the link to the source code of everything we're going to build in this video is going to be in the description below. So the template file and everything we're going to build, you can access it. And this video is going to be in two parts. So this is the first part and it's going to have a second part to conclude it. And yeah, so let's go ahead and test this out. So this is the room name. A user can create a new room, and let's just say let's give it like a room of coding. I don't know, I'm just giving it any room. And then let's enter as team. So now we enter the room. You can see it's blank for now. Let's enter that same room right here, but yeah, let's enter as John. Now we enter. So now I can say hi guys, and once I hit send, you see it shows 42. This is in real time, and I can say hey, what's up, and I hit send, you see it shows 42. So this is the simple application we are going to be building in this video. Now all this data you are seeing here with the date and time, with the message and the name, are going to be saved in our database. So as you can see, we're getting back all these messages in real time. It's actually a fun project to build, and you're going to improve your skills in Django and mixing it with a little bit of JavaScript. So having all this said, let's dive straight into the video. So guys, the first thing we need to do to get started with this project is to obviously install Django. So as I said in the intro, we're going to be using Django to build this chat app. So let's make sure we have Django installed. So I'm just going to say pip install Django. Now this command line is going to install the latest version of Django on my computer. But I have Django installed already, so it should tell me requirement already satisfied. And note that if you're on a Mac, you should type pip3 install Django. That's just the small difference between Windows and Mac, but there is nothing more than that. So as you can see, it says requirement already satisfied. So let's just wait for that to opt out. Oh yeah, I canceled it. So let me close this up, and now we can just create our project. So I'm in the directory where I want to create my project. So I'm just going to say Django -admin start project, and let's name it Django chat. So this is it, Django chat. And in this video, we're not going to be using channels and Redis and the popular way of building a chat app. What we're just going to be using is a little bit of JavaScript, which is AJAX. So we're going to be using Django and implementing AJAX to make our chat functions real time. So you're going to see what we're going to do in this video. So right now we can just go into that and say Django chat. So we are in this, and then if we press dir, we can see right here that there's manage.py file, and we have this folder. So let's just, what I like to do is to create my Django app immediately. So now I can do python manage.py start app, and just name the app chat. So now this should create a new app named chat, and we should have another folder right here named chat. So right here you can see we have a new folder. So we don't need this command prompt again. Let's come into VS Code, and then let's just open that up. So I'm gonna open a folder. So the project we just created, I'm gonna bring it into VS Code. So project chat app, I have it in here, and it is, yeah, this is it. So I'm gonna say select folder, so it should pop that up, and let's give it some seconds. Okay, so that's done. Let me close this and remove all this. So now we have all these right here. So the next thing that I want to do, the first thing I like to do is to just add my template file. So the template file, when I say template file, I mean the HTML files in which we're going to be using in this project. So first of all, let me say templates. So I need to create a new folder in my root directory named template. And in here, I'm going to bring in my template files. So I have this template file designed already. In this video, we're not going to be doing that from scratch. So if you want to get it, as I said in the intro, I'm going to have a link to the source code of this project in the description below. So you can go there and get the template file. So right here, if I open this up, this is where I stored the template file. So I'm just going to drag and drop into VS Code. So we have it right there. Now the next thing we need to do is to go to our settings and just configure the template, and let's add this chat to the installed apps. So first of all, let's come here and then let's add chat. So that is added to the installed apps. Let's close this up, and then we come down here, right here in theirs. I can just say base there, and then when I say this slash template. So what this command line is doing is that it is telling Django where to locate our template file. So when we are doing the URL mapping, which means when we are telling Django where all our URLs are, all the URLs of our project, and we want to render an HTML page to show for a specific URL, we need Django to know where to locate that HTML file. So this line of code says directory, so we're telling him to go to the base directory. So the base directory is just the root project right here. This is the base directory, and in the base directory, Django is going to enter into a folder named template. As you can see, this is the template. So Django can now access all these files inside this template folder. So let's say instead of naming this template, let's say we name it something like files. All we just need to do is to come here and change it to files. But yeah, we are using template, so there's no specific name you have to give this. It's just make sure that this and this correlates. So yes, we have that done, and then we can save. Now I don't think we have anything to do with settings file again. Now all we just need to do is to set up our URLs. So we come here, and then we need to create a new file called urls.py. So now to set up URL, we're just going to say from django.urls import path. So this is going to allow us to be able to configure the paths. So now let me just say from import views. So we're going to use this, and I'm going to explain why we're importing this second line in a minute. So now let's say URL patterns equals to a list, the first one, which is empty, the root directory, views dot, let's say home, and then let's give it a name of home. So now we have this. So we are importing these views because we are saying that when a user wants to go to the home directory, it should go to the views.home. So it's going to go to views.py file, which is this file right here, and it's going to look for a function named home. So whatever we're doing in that function is what is going to be happening to this URL. So I just did the second line to import views so we can access any function we have in that file, which is right here. So right here, we have to have a function named home, and let's just take a simple request, and then let's return, say return render, and then request for, now I want to request for home.html. So that's it. I'm gonna come here and hit save. So the last thing we need to do for this particular URL is come to Django chat, which is the main project folder, and inside the urls.py file of this, let's just close this up. So right here in path, after importing path, we want to import include, and then we're gonna say path include chat.urls, and we're gonna save. So now I'm gonna pop up a new terminal, and then I want to run my Django project just to make sure that this URL configuration works successfully. So let's give that a minute to set up. So it's very easy to run your Django project. Actually, for you to follow up with this video, I expect you to know at least the basics of Django, so you know what's going on around here. But anytime I'm doing my tutorials, I like explaining everything I'm doing, even if you don't know anything about Django, so you know what's going on. But having a basic knowledge of Django before watching this will be helpful. So to run our Django project, we're just going to say python manage.py run server. So that's how easy it is to run a Django project. So I'm just going to wait for that to run on the localhost, which is localhost port 8000. So okay, right here it gives us an error, says string add new object home. So we're gonna come here, so let's hit save, and then right here also, because I guess it hasn't updated. Oh, it still gives us that same error. Okay, let's see. Views dot home. Okay, right here it's not supposed to be a full stop, it's supposed to be a comma. So let's save that again, and it should be running. Yeah, so that's running on this. So if I just control click, it's gonna open this particular URL on my default browser. So okay, let's just come here and open it up ourselves. So yeah, we're just gonna type in the localhost, which is 127.0.0.1, then port 8000. So that is opened already, and then we should see our HTML file. Good. So as you can see now, we have Django chat, and then we have this basic form which we're going to be using in this project. So this is the basic HTML file we're using. So a user is just going to add the room name and then his username, and will be able to enter a room. So let's head back to VS Code and continue with the coding. So now we can just close this up. So let me just open a new terminal down, because we're going to need it later. So now that we have these, what I want to do is to set up the model that we're going to be using in this project. So I'm going to set up two models. One is going to be for the chat room, and the second one is going to be for the messages. So I'm going to come into models.py file. So right here, all I just need to do is to create a class. I'm gonna name it room, and gotta have models.model, and the only thing I want this to have is just a room name. That's all. Models dot character field, and then let it have max length of 1000. So that's for the room name. So I would have given it another attribute of ID, but in Django each model object has an ID generated whenever a new object is created. So like this, there is another attribute named ID, but we don't need to write that ourselves. So this is good to go. And the second one we want to create is the message. So this is the model or the database that's going to be storing all the messages. So say models.model, and right now we're just gonna say value. Oh yeah, I think value is a good name. So value is like the message the user wants to send, like, hey, how you doing, what's up? So that's the value we want to give it. So models.character field also max length, so a message can have up to like 1,000,000 characters. And then let's give it a date. So which date was this done? So before we can use date, we need to import something named datetime. So from datetime, import datetime. So we're going to say models.datetime field, not only date field, datetime field. And then what we want to pass in here, this is not going to have a max length. What this is going to have is a default. So default will be equals to datetime.now. And then let's just set blank to be true. Let's just copy this paste. So the next thing we want to have is the user. So which user is sending this particular message that we want to have? And a user, let's just give it 1,000,000. A username shouldn't be up to that, but just to avoid any errors in this project. And then the last thing we want to have is the room. So we want to know which room is this message being sent to. So this room is going to be like, we can use another Django model, like a relationship model, like the many-to-many field, the foreign key, to link this with this room. But we're not going to be doing that in this video. So this is also another way to do this. So when we're submitting a new message, it's going to have the ID of the room, which is going to link to this. So you're going to understand all these in a moment. So let's just save this. And what we just need to do is to migrate this to our database. So say python manage.py, make migrations. And then after making the migrations, we're just gonna have to migrate. So that's done. Python manage.py migrate. So yes, we have the migration done. Good. So it has been migrated to our database. So now we can go into our Django project and go to /admin. But before we can access the admin panel, we need to create a super user. So python manage.py create super user. So let's just have it as admin. Leave this blank, give it a password. Let's bypass. Good. So now we have a super user created. Let's close this up. So we need to register these models in our admin file. So first of all, we have to import the models from .models, import room, and import message. So admin.site.register. Let's register room. And then let's also register message. Now we save this. Now if I come here, go to /admin. Now it's going to ask me to log in. Let's give it a second to load. Now you see it says I should log in. I'm just going to log in with the details I just created. And then as you can see now, it has taken me to this admin panel, and I have the messages and the rooms model, the Django model right here installed. So if I come into messages, for now obviously we shouldn't have any object here. So but if I want to add a new message, you're gonna see that it has all the fields we need. So let's just go back to the home, and then let's open a new tab, go back to the home page, and leave this like this. So now we have all this. The next thing that I think we need to do now is to make sure that once a user put in a particular room name, let's say the room name is Django, just a Django room, and the user is like Tom. So once a user enter a room, it should take a user to another unique URL for that particular Django, for that particular chat room. So, but what we need to do is to first of all check if this room exists in our database. So if, let's say Django, for example, this is the name of the room, I want to enter the room. If it's a new room, that means if someone have not created it before, we first of all want to create this room and then enter. But if it's a room that already exists, we just want to enter that room and see all the messages. So let's just take this off and let's go do that. So first of all, we need to, let me remove this, we don't need this again. So right in our URLs, we need to have a new path. So this path is going to be the path for the room. It's going to be the URLs for the room. So I'm just going to say path. So it's going to be a dynamic one. So we'll say string, give it a name of room, and then we'll say slash. So this is the room, then slash anything we want to add to it. So say views dot room, and then we give it a name of room. So this is good. And then let's come into views and create a new one and name it room. So say def room, a request also, and let's just copy this. It should also render the room.html file. So this is where the room.html file is. So it's rendering the room.html file. Very simple. And now what we just want to do, so this is not just taking a request. First of all, as you can see right here, we're passing a variable into this particular URL named room. So we need to come into views and also collect room. So now we have all this collected. But if we come into home.html, so right here, scroll down, go down, go down. Right here we have this form. So we want to set this form to an action that once a user click on submit, it should first send those data to a view that will check if this particular room existed or not. So let's first create that view. So we need to create another URL actually. So let's name this check view. So this is the view that is gonna check for what's going on. So oh my god, why is that? So let's just copy this views.check room. Let's give it a name of check room. Let's make sure this has a comma, and then right here in our views, let's have def of check room, just simple request. And for now, let's pass. So let's save this. Then we come here and save this. So now we have this URL. So if I go to slash anything, it's automatically going to see that as a room. But what I want to do now is to come into my home.html. So right here in my home.html, I want to add some things to my form. So this is just going to be easy just to add where this data is going and stuff like that. So first of all, let's say the method it's using to send this data is a post method. And then the action, where is it going? It's going to the check view. So now we have the room name, the username. So in Django, when we're using a post method, we must make sure that we have the CSRF token. CSRF underscore token. So we must make sure that we have this, obviously. Now we have the room name and then the username. So this is good to go. So now we are sending this with the room name and the username to this check view. Now right here in the check view, before we do anything, we want to check if that room name exists in our database. So before we can do that, first of all, need to import that particular model. So say from, we can say .models, or we can say from chat.models. Anyhow you want to do it is fine. From chat.models import, we want to import room. I want to import message. So for now we don't need message, but let's just import it down because we're later going to use it. So right here in the check view, what we just want to do is to say room equals to request.post, and then let's come here and make sure so it has a name of room name. So we're getting it with this name, room name. And then the second one is the username, obviously. So let's make sure, yeah, username correct. So we're passing this, and then what we just want to check, we're just gonna say if room dot object dot filter, so we're filtering it, file ter, the name equals room. Then we want to check if this exists. Then let's do something. So what we're saying right here is that if room.object.filter, that means it's gonna check if there is an object in this room model which has the name of room, so the name of this room that the user sent. And then if that exists, we want to do something. What we just want to do is to redirect the user to the room, which is this room function. But before we can use redirect, we need to import it. So let's import redirect. Good. So we just say return redirect, and we're redirecting the user to /room. So /room.name. And we don't need to say .name because we already have that name and we know it exists. So we're redirecting the user to the room, and then what we want to pass also, we want to pass the username of the person that wants to enter this room. So we know who's sending the message, who is entering and doing stuff like that. So now we can just say /username. So right here, first of all, we should have like this. So username should be equals to, and then let's just add the username. So that's why we took this username. So we're returning the user now to /room/username, then equals to username. So this is good, should be working. And then if it doesn't exist, so if this is a new room that the user is just creating, what we want to do is have a new to have a new variable, say new_room, should now be equals to room.object.create So we want to create a new one with the name of room. So we're going to get that room and then create a new room with that particular name. So now we just say new room.save. So now once we have this saved, we can redirect the user to that page. Exactly the same thing we did here. So I hope you understood what we did in this check view. It's pretty basic, pretty simple stuff. Now let's just save this and go test it out. So we're right here, let's hit refresh. Let's come to our rooms. You will see that we have no room. So let's have a new room and let's just say something like no, let's give it programming. Let's just say programming. Nah, let's say coders. Okay, good. And then let's say Tom. So now let's create a room. Good. Now you can see everything is working perfectly. It takes us to this particular URL named coders. So this is our app /coders, then username equals Tom. So we have the name of the room and then the username, so the user that entered this room. And then when we come here and hit refresh, we can see that that room has been created successfully, room coders. So that is good. And then don't mind this message you are seeing now. That's just the basic template that we brought in earlier. So this is, we're still going to change this to be real-time message and all, but this is just a demo. And then we're going to change this to the room name, obviously. So I think we have this, and then let's check. So let's go back and then try to enter this coder room again. So now let's make sure that it doesn't create another room with that same name of coder, but it just takes us into that room. So let's enter with another user this time around, coder but with him. So it brings us to that same room but with a different user this time around. So once we hit refresh, we see that we don't have a new object created. It just takes us into this existing one. So that was what we did in our check view. So that is pretty good right now. And then since we have this, what we can just do is to come into room.html. So right here, this is where we need to do some work next. Can just close that up. So instead of having room name, okay, so let's say right here. Okay, good. So now we have all this created. The next thing we just want to do, first of all, we're going to remove this, and then once a user input a message and hit send, we want that message to be stored in the database with the details of this room and the user. So you're going to see what we're going to do. So right here now, what we just need to do is to first of all come into room.html. So right here in this form, we need to create some things which are going to allow us to submit that, obviously. So in the form, we're going to, this is the form, right, should be down below. Let's close this up. Nope, let's close this up. So this is the form, yeah. So now in this form, let's just have some things like CSRF token, as I always have CSRF underscore token. So this is just to make sure that whenever we're using post method, everything works. So you can see now that I put the CSRF token, but I didn't do something like method post. So that's because we're going to be using AJAX to submit this our form. So if I come here normally and then I type in a message and hit send, that page is gonna reload, and that's what we don't want in our chat. So we want it to be real time. We want everything to happen without this page even thinking of refreshing. So once we hit something, it's gonna send, and once we hit send without the page refreshing, it's gonna be created in our message database, and then later on we're also gonna make it show here automatically in real time without any page refreshing. So this is where AJAX comes in. So AJAX is a very cool feature. I have a ton of tutorial on AJAX on my channel. So it allows you to do things like get database in real time, synchronously, and some cool stuffs that you can implement with Django. So this AJAX is not with Python, it's actually with JavaScript. So we're going to be using some basic JavaScript. Now, to use AJAX, what we just need to make sure is that you have this script loaded in your template file. So this particular line, let me just scroll across so you guys can see the whole line. So that's it. So once you have that imported, you are good to go. So first of all, right here you can see that we have this form, so we want to click send. So right here you see we have 1 2 3 4 inputs, but here we only have 2 inputs showing. So if you see, the type of this is hidden and the type of this is also hidden. So we don't want the user to write anything here. We're going to automatically give it a value ourselves. So the username is the current user that's logged in, and then the room ID is the ID of this room the user is in. So before we can continue, we need to come into our views, get these 2 details. After getting details, we pass it back here and then implement it in our form. So let's do that quickly. So now right here in our room, we just need to say username first of all. So how are we going to get this username? You can see no, bad. So username should be equals to now let's just go back coders and let's enter storm. Okay, good. So I'm going to make sure our URLs is working. So you can see in our URLs we have the name of the room and we have the name of the user. So since we have it in this URL of this view, we can just get back these details. So let's say username should be equals to, so we're going to request for it, request dot get, that's how we do it, and then we'll say username. So it's stored in a variable of username, as you can see. So now in this scenario, we're going to get a value of Tom. If this is Tim, we're going to get Tim. If this is Henry, we're going to get Henry. And the next thing we want to get is the room details. So you can see that we have this room. So this coders is what is being passed here in this room. We have that already. So what we're just going to say, since we have the name of that room, we're going to use this name to access the database. So we're going to say room underscore details, and then we'll say equals to room dot objects dot get name equals room. So what this is doing is that we have a new variable obviously, and then from this room model right here, dot object dot get is getting the particular model which has the name of this room, so which have the name of coders in this case. Now that we have all those details that we need, all I just want to do now is to pass it into our HTML. So right here, let's make sure we get that. First of all, we put a comma, and we have these, and then let's pass the username. Oh shit. So let's copy this, pass the username, and then we want to pass the room details also. So first of all, we want to pass the room. Actually, if we have the room details, we don't need to pass the room, but let's just do that. So let's copy and paste. So now we have all this sent to our HTML. Now in our HTML, we should be able to access all this easily. So let's save this file, and right here in rooms, first of all, let me scroll all the way up. So instead of room name, now that I have the name of the room, I can just do room. So this room is actually this. Okay, this shouldn't be this. Good. So let's save that again. So we have this room. So let's first see that change and make sure everything is working. So instead of room name, we should have coders. So right here now you can see we have coders. Good. Now we're gonna scroll down back to the form, and right here, so the value of the username is the current user. We should just have this, and then the room ID should have room details dot ID, like this. So I get in this room details that we sent here. So as you can see, remember that this room details is the particular room from the model. So what we're just doing here is getting that particular model and getting its ID. Remember in the beginning, I said once you have a new object, that object automatically has an ID. So we're getting that ID. So now that we have all of these, we should be good to go with using our AJAX. So just to use AJAX, I'm actually gonna just open a new script right here down below the body. Let's give it here. So to save time, I'm just gonna paste in this code. So what this code does, you can see just a piece of JavaScript. So let me explain each line by line. So this is document. So what this is doing is that once we load this document form, we're saying that .onSubmit of this post form. So what we're saying is immediately a user clicks on the submit button of this post form. So this is the submit button of the post form. So what do we want to do? We want to have a function, and we give it this e value. So we say e.preventDefault. So what this prevent default does is that normally in a form, once we hit submit, the page is gonna refresh or go to another page. So this prevent default is gonna prevent that from reloading or going to another page. So now we know that the page isn't gonna reload. Now we're gonna use our AJAX to send that details to our database. So what we're doing now is that we're saying AJAX, and then we're saying the type is post. Normally if we weren't using AJAX, you know, we're going to use something like method, but since we're using AJAX, we don't need that. So we're already accessing the type post, and the URL is sending it to send. I'm going to explain this URL in a bit. And then the data is just basically all the data, username with an hashtag of username, room ID, and then the message. So as you can see, everything is here: username, room ID, message. That's just what we are sending. And then the CSRF token, this is how we implement the CSRF token right here. So the success function, we can just say something like message sent. So I commented this out, but let me leave that like that. And then yeah, let's just leave this like this. So what this is doing is that the success function, that means if the message was submitted to the database, we're going to print a particular message. So this is going to be accessed from the views.py function. I'm going to go back to that. And then this, so what this is doing is that once a user hit on send and it has been saved in the database, we want to delete this. We want to delete that particular line from the input. So what I mean is that, let's say a user types something right here, and then the user hits send. So once that has been saved, we want to clear this particular input to now be blank, just like the way you see in normal chat services. So right here, we got this. This should be good. And what we just want to do is to have a new URL, and we're going to name this URL send. So as you can see, it's sending all this data to a URL named send. So first of all, let's save this up, and then we come here create a new one, say send, and then we paste, and then we paste. So we have a new URL now named send. Then we want to create a new function for it. So just the way we did something like this check view, remember? So this check view first checked if that room is available or not available, then before it did whatever it wants to do. So we're gonna do something similar in the send. So what we're just gonna do, we're gonna access this send. So let's scroll down. A new function send requests. So these are just basic functions. And then right here you can see we're sending all this data to this send URL. So let's just access them. So we're just gonna say the message should be equals to, so we're using a post method from the front end. So say request.post, and then it's in message. So I like cross-checking to avoid any errors. So yeah, it's in a variable of message, then room ID, then username. So those are the three we need. So nope, come here, paste, and then this should be the username, and then this should be the room underscore ID. So now copy that, let's just paste it here since it's the same thing. So we have all these done. So now that this view has all this data which the user kind of inputted, all we just want to do is to store that data in this message database. So let that quickly load. Okay, yeah, I know why this error is coming up, just because we didn't save some changes yet, but let's keep going. So you know we have those models, which is message, so we want to save all those into this model. So now, since we imported the message model up here, remember I said we're going to later use it, so we have that imported. We don't need to import it again, so we can just say new message. Now new message, we're going to say message is no, just message actually, message.objects, not slash, we need a dot, object dot create. So we're creating a new object right there. Now the value, remember we used value, should be the message which we collected, and then the user, remember which user, should be the username which we collected, and then the room. So what we want to store is the room ID, so room should be equals to the room ID. So now that we have this, all we can just do is just say new message dot save. So we just do new message dot save. So we have that saved. Let's just return. Now we are not rendering any HTML page, we just want to return back to the front end or to the JavaScript the message. So we're gonna give it an HTTP response. But before we can do that, first of all I have to import it here. So we say from Django.http import HTTP response. Good. So now we can say return an HTTP response, and we can say message sent successfully. Good. So now we have this. So this HTTP response, this is how I just saved the file, and this is how we're gonna, so this data, remember I said on success, that means if everything works perfectly, we are giving it a function with this value of data, and then want to alert data. So this data is this HTTP response. So when we alert, it's just going to say message sent successfully. Now we did pretty good. So let's go check out what we did. Now this should be working. Good. And then in messages, you can see we have 0 message. So now let me just type, okay, first of all I gotta refresh this page. Refresh. Good. So now let me just type a message like, hey guys, and I hit send. You can see it says message sent successfully. Obviously later in the tutorial we're going to remove this. We're just using this for confirmation. And then once I hit send, you see that the message doesn't show here again, which should be. Now let's come here and hit refresh. You see now that we have a new message. So it says, hey guys, that's the value, and it comes from the user Tom, which we see here, and then the room with the ID of 1. So the room with the ID of 1 is obviously this first room. So if it's another room, it's going to tell us the room with the ID of 2. Let's cross check, don't let us assume. So let's say okay. Now let's go to the home page. Now I want to create another room and say backend developers, and now Tomi is going to be in here. Now let's create the room, and now let me say, hey developers, and I hit send. The message sent successfully. The message, this place is cleared. Now we come here to messages. We have 2 messages now. Hey developers, we got the date and the time, and it's coming from the user Tomi, and the room ID is 2. So if I come to rooms, you see we have a new room created with the ID of 2, backend developer. So we can use this to access the messages for each room later. So this is working pretty fine. What we've done to this point is that a user can create a new room, enter that room, so it's gonna be on a dynamic URL, and then a user can send a message, and that message will be saved in the database. So in the next video, what we just need to do is to make sure that once a user enters a room, all the messages of that room will first of all will load like a normal chat, and then once a user submits a message and hit send, is automatically going to show right here. And then not just only for the user, for also another user anywhere the person is. I'm also going to test that with an incognito mode. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial to this point. I really had fun building this. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. So having that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next and final part.